Yeah, we'll let a couple of people. You're on your Facebook, eh?
Yeah, that
Oh,
one's
we'll
still
continue.
running.
We'll continue on your Facebook. So let's go from the top.
All right.
Let's go right from the top.
Great. So I've just come up to a store and you're asking me.
Oh, g'day, mate. I've got a mask for you.
Yeah, great. I'm exempt. Thanks very much for the offer. I just need to go in and get some food.
You're exempt. No, sorry. There's a strong store policy here. Mm-hmm. You have to wear a mask to come in.
Yeah, understand. As I mentioned for the second time, I'm exempt and I'd like to reserve my rights in that regard, so I need to go in and get my food.
Well, what sort of exemption? Medical exemption? What have you got to... You can't enter the store, mate. I'm sorry.
Right, I believe that's my private information. Do you have the right to ask me for that?
Well, this is our shop, and for you to come in here, you need to wear a mask. I'm really sorry, mate. You've got to wear a mask.
So for the third and final time, I'll let you know I'm exempt. So are you refusing me entry? Is that what's going on?
I am actually refusing your entry. Yeah, you need to have a mask.
Yeah, right, okay. So it's your job to ask me, right? I get that. I understand the position you're in. Is it your job to enforce it, though, or is it your job just to ask me?
Well, I've got to ask you to do it, yep, and I guess I'm enforcing it, yep.
Okay, great. So by refusing me entry, is that not discrimination? Are you not discriminating against me by refusing me entry right now?
I'm actually just practicing the store policy here that for the safety of the community, you've got to have a face covering and a mask to come in here.
Yeah, right. Well, it's my understanding that I'm exempt and this is a place of public accommodation, is it not?
This is true.
Yeah, great. So if you're refusing me entry based on my personal situation, is that not discriminating? How are you not discriminating against me right now?
Well, I'm just trying to keep everyone safe, mate.
Yep, great. So you've mentioned it's a policy. Now, is a policy a law? Is there any law that compels me to provide my personal information or that doesn't protect me from being discriminated against right now?
Well, I'm not too sure about that. Look, mate, I've just been told no one gets in here without a mask. I'm just trying to do my job.
Great. So at the moment, I feel like you're really depriving me of my liberties and my rights. So what I'm going to need to do is put in a formal complaint. Totally get that we're part of the same community. I don't want any harm to come to you. I don't understand you're in a hard place right now, but I absolutely refuse to have my rights taken away from me. So I'm going to need your name. What's your name?
You need my name.
Yeah. What I'm thinking of doing at the moment is that I'm going to put in a formal complaint. Now, if I do that, then you're obviously going to be notified by Fair Trading, probably the Ombudsman, and your indemnity insurer will be involved as well. Usually that's bad news for a business owner. Now, I don't want to have to do that to you, but obviously I'm not willing to have my privacy or my rights taken away from me. So at the moment, I've explained to you that I'm exempt. I'm happy to call a police officer if you need me to, because I can actually report that as a crime against me. However, being part of the same community, I'd rather keep it civil, and I've explained that I'm exempt. I believe that's all I'm required to do, and I'd like to go in and get my food.
What are you looking to buy?
Just some celery.
Go on then, mate.
So if you didn't though, like let's say you just absolutely refuse me entry, what we'd be doing at that point is that I would be putting in a formal complaint.
Yeah.
So personally, me and the people, like most people in our community, we've had no issues at all. No one's really bothering us. A couple are trying to stop us, but then a little bit of this and they don't put up any fight anymore.
Yeah.
But if they do, that's why I'd need your name, because I would actually put in a formal complaint.
Yeah.
So by a formal complaint, that means putting into like whoever's, let's say it's Bunnings, to the head office, but you don't want to just go internally because they're like, we'll put it in the bin, sort of thing. So then we go to ASIC, Fair Trading, Ombudsman, or anyone else that oversees the regulatory bodies.
Yeah, can you elaborate a little bit more on that? Like last night Tom was talking about how if you go external to ASIC or to the Ombudsman and so on, that you most likely have a much better result, Tom.
Yeah, because, like anything, if anyone's worked in any kind of, or anywhere, if somebody puts in a formal complaint, like the complaints department is generally the waste paper bin. It's like kind of like some people take it semi-seriously, but, most of the time they don't. So they'll all just rely, no, you did the right thing, our policies state this. And that's as far as it will go internally, usually. So if you go to ASIC or Fair Trading or Ombudsman or anything like that, then by engaging the business must respond. And if it's the Ombudsman, they must pay for the service. And so that's when the real policies or the real actual laws about rights and privacy will come in.
Right.
Because they're only dealing with like Service New South Wales, for example. Service New South Wales has no right to impose mask mandates or lockdowns or anything because it's in direct opposition to what the federal jurisdiction says, and they're not saying anything about it, which means that it's a contradiction, which means that the State Department can't make us do anything. because our rights and our privacy are upheld at a higher level. So they're in breach of that, which means that they'll get in a lot of trouble.
Right.
Because again, no business can tell anybody what to do when it comes to privacy. You know, somebody might want you to scan a QR code. Without a privacy policy, they're breaking the law. They're breaking the law by asking you anyway, because no business has the right to collect your personal information. So then they go, yeah, but we're just told by Service New South Wales. It's like, yeah, but you're collecting it. You're asking for it. So without a privacy policy, that's against the law straight away. Masks, they can't impose on your medical information and or your personal information in general. That's why, like, if anyone saw JPC's did a clip where he's like, well, I need to know if you've got herpes. You know, like I need your STD history in that, because
Right.
it's like, that's what it's doing. It's asking you about your personal information, which you don't have to divulge.
Yeah.
And their policy, the actual policy from the state, which doesn't matter in the first place, but either way, that's what they're relying on, is that all you have to do is state you can't wear one or that you're exempt. And that's it.
Yeah.
They can't refuse.
Now, I know you haven't got a lot of time this afternoon, Tom. I know you've got to take off, but maybe a little bit on QR coding as well. I know a lot of people feel, you know, it's an interrogation process just to buy a freaking sandwich on the Gold Coast or Northern New South Wales or anywhere in Australia right now. Depending on where you are, it is a proper interrogation process. They want access to your phone. Who knows what these QR codes are really doing? Like, it's some pretty high-tech stuff, and you just want to participate in the economy, right? You just want to purchase some goods. You want to frequent an establishment. QR codes. What would you say to people out there who are really wanting to reserve their rights when it comes to QR codes?
So QR codes is an invasion of privacy. There's no law that states that you have to have a QR code downloaded onto your phone. No one can force you to even have a phone. So me, because I don't take my phone out with me usually, so I just don't have a phone. So then they might say, well, you've got to put your details into here. So then I say, well, look, I'm going to reserve my rights to privacy, but thanks for offering. Now I'm going to need to get my stuff or whatever. Most of the time, I'll actually just walk. No one's going to stop you. They might call out, but this is the difference, is that when people go in and they start and they sit right in here, right in the slot, and then they just wait for somebody to come back and they say their thing and they just wait for a response. It's like back and forth, and you're like inviting it to go nowhere.
Sure.
So I just go, yep, reserve my rights to privacy. Thanks very much for asking. And I just walk in. Because even if they call the cops aren't going to do anything.
Right.
Because there's no law that they can say, no, it's policy, or what else comes up? Hey, this is our private business, right? We have the right to refuse entry. They absolutely do, but they've got to have cause. Because if I'm drunk and I'm covered in blood and carrying a butcher's knife, they can go, mate, you're not coming in. Because they need to protect, they have a duty of care to protect the safety and well-being of the customers, for example. But they can't discriminate. So they would be discriminating against me if I don't have a phone. You know, what law requires me to have a phone? Or you're not giving your details. Yeah, but that's my private information. So since when do I need to divulge my privacy in order to enter a store to purchase what is usually an essential service or a place of public accommodation? So on whatever level, they don't have any right to ask any of this. So rather than be combative, though, like, I can do this, you can't do that, we've got to meet them halfway a little. We've got to pass an attitude test, which is, first of all, we're not dealing with QR codes or policies. We're dealing with a man or a woman that's there. So when I do it, I'm not impolite. I just go, yeah, I'm reserving my rights to privacy. But yeah, hey, thanks, appreciate you doing your job. And then I just walk in.
Yeah.
I don't go like, or like, I don't like push them away in any way.
Yeah.
Just go, yeah, no, thanks, appreciate you asking. Hey, good job, or whatever. Don't lie to them, but it's just, you know, whatever it is that I do is just, it doesn't come from a place of defending.
Yeah.
So when we're not defending, then the end result is a lot better.
A lot better. When I was down in Communist Byron Bay, and I went to the dive shop, and they wouldn't serve me without a QR code and a face mask, and I blew up. I'm like, bloody communists! I'll take my business elsewhere, you dickheads, and I walked out. Didn't work out very well for me, and you know, also because we don't have the numbers taking our business elsewhere right now, they don't care, right? Because we're such a small minority who are actually doing this. But say, for instance, when I dealt with the pharmacist yesterday, and this is straight up from what Tom's been, you know, sharing, I just said, look, really appreciate the offer for the mask, but I'm actually exempt. And I just walked up to the counter and made my order. And it was very, very simple. She was certain that I was certain, and I just walked in, and I was very confident in my approach that way. So I know you've got to wrap up pretty soon, Tom, but for anyone out there who's really struggling to, I guess, deal with all this, how would you kind of summarize the core principles of what you're getting across.
Yeah, cool. So the core principles are simply that all of these offers that have been put in place are simply that. They're an offer, so they're not mandatory, and they can't be enforced lawfully. So it's simply a matter of just remembering that we have the right to go about our business, the right to our own health, to not put a covering on, and our right to privacy. So from that place, when you already have that, there's nothing to defend. So then if you just walk and talk and act as if it already is, because it is, not like I have to learn this or I have to convince somebody that I have rights or privacy or autonomy over my body. If you don't have to convince anyone of that, then it's a different interaction. So I know several people that tried to go to Bunnings yesterday because they were telling us at the workshop, and a few of them had real difficulty, and then a couple of others said, hey, I was there the same day and I just walked straight through. Same security guard, because they described him the same.
Right.
So it's how you carry yourself. The words are important to a degree, and sometimes you need to learn the words so you remember part of who you are, but once that's established, you just go wherever you want, essentially. And in the case where, let's say, the role play we just did, when somebody's super adamant that they're right and you're wrong, well, you got a few choices. One, do you really need to go there? Like, how much of this system do we want to continue to support before we create something else? If it's a kebab joint, well, what if like 10 of us just started making kebabs and everyone came here instead? And we'd probably make it with way better ingredients, better quality,
True.
and more community. So at what point do we want to exit this current system to then create what we want to create instead? That's the first thing. Second is there somewhere better that already exists? That is accepting people and not trying to turn them away. And then from there, it's a matter of just, look, some people might need to be taught a lesson. So if I had got your name, which I would, and if you refused to give it to me, I'd still call Fair Trading and say the business, the time, and who is at the front, like a man who looked like this with an All Rights Reserve shirt on, and I'd be like, this guy. Then they'll find out, and then I'll notice them, and then they'll be fined. And I'll probably win money from it as well. So some people will have to do that too, but by and large, look, honestly, you carry yourself right, and you won't have issues with QR codes or masks.
Well said, mate. And just on that, if any of you are following a mutual friend of ours, Libre just was awarded $40,000 from Sydney. Total Tools, they're called. Funny name, Total Tools. But they actually insisted on his partner producing her medical exemption.
Yeah.
And they settled for $40,000 out of court, which is quite powerful when you think about it, folks. So please stand your ground. Follow Tom Barnett on Instagram, on Facebook, at his website, Tom Barnett TV.
Yep.
And just in closing, folks, I had the idea that some of Tom's maxims of law need to go on some shirts, and then we had a discussion, and here we are with our brand coming out now, All Rights Reserved. Our first shirt here says "My consent is absolutely essential," which is probably the most critical thing to remember.
Yeah.
Very humble beginnings, folks. We've just got our first run of t-shirts now that are sort of getting out there. The website's not quite up and running just yet. But thank you all for being here. I don't know if this video is going to be able to stay online. The first one got wiped. But please add my Telegram. What's your Telegram, Tom?
TomBarnett.tv. So Instagram, Telegram, and website are all TomBarnett.tv.
They're all Tom Barnett TV. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for all tuning in. We'll see you all soon. Bye for now.
That was cool.